We have returned here to the Rainbow Six North American League. Your host, Doey, here, along with Caliber Jacob, Jesse J. Chick, and we're about to go into our third game of the day. This one, Astralis fights for the final spot at the Sweden Major. If they can win it, they are in it. If they do not win, Mirage takes the spot. But that's not all the teams are playing for in this one, is it?
That's very right, though, because OXG are not just riding for Mirage, they will also lock down the 6 Invitational. If they win this game against Astralis, of course, their opponents here, Astralis, already in the 6 Invitational. They're trying to lock down the other land. They're trying to go to Sweden. So a lot of different majors being qualified or tournaments being qualified for. All in all, though, at least we can say that both these teams do have something to play for. Astralis maybe more directly because that's such an important win and you're in, losing you're out situation.
Sure.
OXG will have more opportunities if they lose this, but still going to be a very important game for Astralis, Oxygen, and Mirage.
Mirage probably have not left the arena in Vegas. They're probably all crowded up around the monitors, and they will celebrate with OXG, assuming they're able to win this game, because they are currently Oxygen's biggest fans at the moment.
Well, it's going to be interesting, too, because OXG is coming into this one with 3 wins in a row. Total turnaround from what we saw earlier in the stage. You know, I guess we could say, too, Dream with a chance to send his former team to the major. You know, does he want to? Does he not want to? Who knows? I think they just want to lock in SI, and whatever happens with Mirage is kind of like, you know, a secondary thing, most likely.
Look, if he wants to send his old homeboy Benji Mula out of the major, he might as well give it his best shot here. The possibility definitely does exist because there's still 2 points that separate the two of them. So we're talking regulation victory for Astralis here gives them the single best opportunity to go. But if we don't see that, then it gets way more complicated. Do we start looking at scores at all in this game because the last game was a 7-4, 7-5?
For majors?
So close?
It doesn't matter. Winning you're in, losing you're out for Astralis.
There you go. So even if it's OT, no matter how it happens.
Well, so let's talk about Astralis a little bit. This is, again, a team that I think has been quite frustrating, honestly. Stage number 3, they were #1 in the NAL on stage 1, #1 in the NAL stage 2, made it all the way to the grand finals, to the final game, in fact, of the grand finals at the Charlotte Major. But things have kind of fallen off a little bit then, especially at the Berlin Major. Things went way off the rails. We were talking about this coming into today. It really feels like it's kind of Forest and Iconic sort of carrying the other 3 lately in their success.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to say it, but like honestly for Astralis, it has been a really rough stage for 3 of their players, okay? Being able to come into this stage, I think for a lot of players, or for a lot of fans, they were perhaps the favorites, at least an easy team to put into top 4 because they'd been so successful in previous stages. They had a really rough Berlin. I think burnout started to hit this team pretty hard. I think mentally they started getting ahead of themselves a little bit. But recently it has just been kind of Iconic and Forest being those 2 big players that have pulled this one out. Iconic, obviously our MVP last week for one of our play days.
Wait a second.
He had a big moment. Yes?
That's me.
Oh my gosh,
Jacob,
hey,
flattering picture there.
Pretty good. Look at that accuracy, though. Not bad.
That's pretty good, yeah.
I mean, not that much better than me. But,
I'm down for the accuracy and the reaction time. I'm not down for this pic. Was this one of the pictures from like SI? I think we took this at SI.
I like it. This is like this. I imagine this is when someone said, "Hey, Jacob, can you do the thing that Donkey Kong does when he's like really upset?" And then you did this.
I did, yeah, I guess. I don't remember what the prompt was. Still, though, I mean, yeah, sorry.
I like it.
The entire point that Jesse was making goes completely out the window because now we saw that. I mean, for Astralis, I do agree that the point is more individual performances, and we keep on seeing Iconic and Forest really show up, but it's the inverse of Mirage. If for some reason Astralis does make this major, if they beat OXG here, then the problem isn't their attacks, it's their defenses. They're still relatively even in this matchup with OXG. They're only 4 percentage points separating the 2 of them on how their defenses usually swing, but it's still their biggest weakness. On attack, they're still 3rd, which if you're up there with teams like the Sonics, like TSM, and you're still in this position, I'd say your attacks respectively are still basically where they need to be, but you are 8th in the league right now on defense. So regardless of what map we end up going to, I certainly hope that it's a map that they like, it has an attacker favor swing, and they start on the attacking side just to give themselves as much of a lead as they can, because OXG have been building up some really interesting late game momentum, and like over these past couple of games, you do not want to give OXG an early start because, like you said, Astralis and burnout and trying to stick through these long games mentally is something that has already proven to be a challenge for in this stage.
I want to dive into these two players we've been highlighting a little bit more because although they have been kind of carrying and they've been having like a big impact, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? I don't think Force and Iconic being the star players is necessarily a problem. Last week I said it's fine, but they just need those other three players to support these two big playmakers. And I think last week they did that. From an EPS standpoint, Force was top 2 on the team for both matches. Iconic was 1st and 3rd. They were starting to show up, which was fantastic for them last week. I think on attacks, Force not only made his own space, but then was also able to focus down those plants. The team did a great job of covering him when he was going for those plants and following up on his entries. And then I think Iconic was maybe a bigger factor back on the defense. I think we saw a lot of him kind of winning the right fights at the right times from the right spots. He had massive impact in helping his team win those rounds. And I think he was also swinging off of information from his teammates really well. So although they have been statistically the more impressive players, I do think the other three, last week especially, did a great job of supporting and enabling these two playmakers. And if that's the playstyle that's going to push Astralis to the major, then it's a great time for it to start back up.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, right? But they got a tough opponent on the other side of the arena. We wouldn't have said that maybe 2 weeks ago with the way they were looking, but the last 3 maps have been won by Oxygen, the other team in this 3rd game of the day. And Oxygen, like we mentioned earlier, if they win this one, they are a lock for the 6th Invitational, so there is something to play for. And, you know, again, if they really want to send Mirage through to the major, that's another reason to win as well. But they got something to play for, and they've been playing well enough to get it, I think, recently.
And I think even more importantly, like, they want to prove to people that this roster move is the right call for their team. They want to prove to people that they're still a top squad in North America. They're not going to make top 4, but they're trying to make a statement, right? And I think they're tired of the things that people are saying about them, their roster move maybe not being the right call. I will say that the turnaround kind of happened as soon as you took Sweater off of Flank Watch. So perhaps that's the play, and I'm there as well. Brain explosion.
Doing your like Professor X thing or something there.
I am in fact 1 player rating point behind Jacob, so I'm actually very upset at that.
Boom.
But I do.
I have higher accuracy.
I do slam all of you on reaction time.
By about 0.001
Well, but you're not below the 200
0.03.
marker, are you?
Nah.
Not though, are you? That's tough.
Nah, it doesn't
That's
matter.
tough.
You know what they should have done if they were going to show both of us back to back? They should have shown the one of like what? Didn't like I picked you up in one of those photo shoots? I think.
Yes,
when you were wearing that exact turtleneck, I think that happened.
Yeah.
So no, I very firmly agree that
Aliens.
for Oxygen, their biggest problem was not understanding where they needed to utilize everybody, and it was nice that they didn't take an entire stage to come to the realization that the best place to put Sweater was not on flank, was not have him do Laxing's roles. And I understand that there are people that don't like the fact that this point gets hammered home to death, but ultimately they're on a 3-game win streak, probably directly because of the fact that they're not relying on Sweater to do something that he isn't immediately comfortable with. He's the kind of guy that you have to build a team more around more effectively and utilize his fragging potential and the opportunities that he creates, and not be somebody who needs to clean up the other parts of the map that aren't working to your advantage. What I will say about that 3-game win streak that they're on right now, one of them came against a Bisco squad that very obviously isn't doing very hot at the moment, and taking Dark Zero to Theme Park when DZ were the ones who specifically set out to do that. It killed Dark Zero's major chances, and OXG themselves, I'm sure, have to be feeling really good, but now you've got a team like Astralis who definitely have something else to play for here. I would not take them lightly. Go to a map that's a little bit safer, and you're going to have better odds.
Also make sure Sweater gets his pregame massage.
That's what was missing
Necessary.
We saw that, yeah.
It was hopes
important.
behind them the whole time. Now that Redeemer's here, everything's going to be okay.
There you go. Shoulders loosened up. The maps, I believe, have been picked.
Fantastic.
Ready to go into vetoes in a moment. See where we're going here in our 3rd game of the day.
Well, we start things off with a border ban in Clubhouse. Clubhouse always sucks to ban against OXG, but it is Astralis' perma, so not a shocker. Skyscraper, a little bit surprising. It is something that we saw Oxygen win just last week. That a statement game over Dark Zero. However, for Astralis, Skyscraper has been very good, 4-1 of the year, undefeated in North America. Oregon, kind of another map that a little bit weird to ban, but again, Astralis are 7-2 for the year, so it doesn't super surprise me. We have left a lot of maps up, though, that Astralis, I think, are going to be pretty happy with.
Again, this is a case where Astralis and OXG do have some slightly congruous map pools, or ones that do complement each other a little bit better. I think a Cafe would obviously be one map that both teams have already played 3 times so far this year, but OXG say no, which puts it in Astralis' hands. Do we go to Bank or do we go to Villa, which ironically enough is one of the more favored maps for both teams, both in win rate and number of plays, so there would be plenty of tape on them if that's where we go, and that's exactly where we head. So, to set the stage for you, Astralis Starting on the attack on Villa, they are 54% attack on this map for the whole year, 60% specifically over the course of this stage, and that's going to be what they need to fall back on because it is a defensive-sided map even still to this day. OXG are probably going to have at least some measure of an advantage here, but as far as the year overall in stats is concerned, it's relatively dead even for both teams on both win rates and on what side they usually prefer.
Oregon and Sky being the second and third bans is actually pretty surprising from Oxygen. It shows that they want to go to a new map. They want to grow their map pool a little bit more. I do wonder if they're maybe taking this game as another opportunity to grow the squad, learn a couple more things about their team. I think it also may throw off Astralis a little bit. Oregon and Skyscraper, I think, are two maps that this map pool definitely could have ended up on. Both maps that both teams are very, very strong on. We instead end up on Villa, a map that Oxygen have not played at all this stage with their current lineup. So it'll be very interesting to see, A, if Astralis are fully prepped for this map, and then B, if Oxygen have a lot kind of in pocket that could surprise their opponents here. Yeah,
well, a lot to think about as we go into our predictions now. And the first thing we have to do, of course, as always, is get the input of our casters. This time around, it's Blue and Stokes. And you know what? I'm not going to let Stokes pass it off to Blue right away. I'm going to make Stokes say it right away. You go first. You go first this time.
Right in the hot seat, huh? For the last day, though. This is how you want to do me for the last time we're in Los Angeles? Okay.
We got 2 more games after this.
I mean,
you have your chance.
I guess. But we'll get right down to it. You know what? I think Astralis has been pretty red hot for this tail end of the stage. But Oxygen has also looked pretty solid. You know, they lost their first 5 games. But did you know they're on almost a 4-game win streak? It's really close here. So I think it's pretty much up in the air. But I will say this. I think Astralis is good to go to their 3rd major for the year. I'm picking Astralis over Oxygen here. It's bound to be a good Villa.
It's going to be the same for me. I feel like Astralis is going to take this one mainly because of the major contentions involved. I feel like they'll be very well prepared, even though, again, the map will be going on towards.
It does feel like it would be a weird scenario to have a major this year without Astralis there based on the last couple stages. So I could see where that comes from, but we'll see if our desk agrees with you or not. We'll check back in with our casters in just a moment. Jesse, Jacob, do you think Astralis has got what it takes here? I mean, Oxygen's look so good lately. Do Astralis want it enough? What do you think?
I mean, I think Astralis are a squad that, just like last time against Mirage, we saw Mirage, maybe the nerves got to them a little bit. They necessarily didn't play to their fullest potential. They ended up faltering. For OXG, sure, they don't have anything as important to play for, but that could honestly be a curse for Astralis. I'm worried about how the nerves will set in for AST, so I'm going to go for Oxygen. I think they're going to pull out the upset and take down the team that really has it all to lose in this game.
Hard to disagree with it. But here's the one factor I think will work better for Astralis. If they are saying that they had a bad mental in Berlin, that they've had a lot of time spent going to events, playing the game, I think the big thing about this week is that it's only the 1 game. They don't have to immediately start thinking about or splitting their attention between 2 different opponents. I would be more concerned if this was like a do-or-die scenario and then they had to go into a game immediately the next day and they don't have the resources or the time to effectively do that. I think they understand the pressure that's on them, and when Astralis are against the ropes, usually they perform. This stage, if they don't do it here, then obviously them going to the majors is a complete non sequitur, but I think they can do it here. It's just going to be about the skin of their teeth.
All right, well, we got a couple votes for Astralis. We got 1 for Oxygen. Time to find out what the coin has to say. It's going to be heads, Astralis. It's going to be tails, Oxygen. Ooh, heads. All right. It's going to be Astralis. The coin believes that they can get back to the major 1 more time this year. We'll see if they do. If they do a little bit better than groups. What's the fan vote say? 50-50. Whoa.
What?
Hold up.
Wait.
Wait a second here. This is unprecedented. The fan vote was 50-50 on both Twitter and Twitch. It came down to a vote by our control room.
What?
They voted amongst themselves. Hey, they've been watching all year too. They voted, and it went Oxygen's way. That is unprecedented stuff. By 1 person, it went Oxygen's way.
Wow.
You talk about every vote counting. Wow, we had to break the tie with our control room. Oxygen.
We
gets
might
it
have to
with 1
recount
vote.
this. I don't know if this is legitimate.
Stop the vote. No,
Stop the count.
That's it. We're taking this one. We're taking this one.
Wow.
That is incredible. Wow. Let's see what our community poll is. What question do we got to think about before the game? Who's more hungry for this victory, Iconic or Newers? Good question. Iconic has that professional gamer fire. Newers has it too, but he's also got that Rookie of the Year stamp. status, like I need to get this kind of vibe too. So I don't know. That's a tough one, but you can go to R6 Esports NA on Twitter, cast your vote as well. But for now, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll find out if Astralis can fight their way to the 3rd major for them of the year, or if Oxygen will punch their ticket to SI and send Mirage through to Sweden. Don't go anywhere. Rainbow Six North American League comes back right after this.
Then I roll that, she got, tell her throw that, start her on, it's a throwback. Just a straight roll, I don't even pay tolls. The boy a genius and I ain't talking yay though. Been a living legend since I was like a day old. I remember days though, listening to J. Cole. I remember days though, listening to Drake though. Had to up my profile, had to up my payroll. Getting too high, yeah, you know I had to lay low. Getting too fried, eating on some bake though. Yeah, I came through and you know I had to make do. Yeah, I came through and you know I had to make do. Getting all these dollars, yeah, you know I had to make them. Yeah, I came through, yeah, you know I had to make do. Beat by Apollo, stop at New Apollos. Cop a Henny sour and I'm puffing Jack Sour. Yeah, I feel a black power, yeah, this time is really ours. It's time to get the bag, yeah, it's time to get the bag, yeah, yeah. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On the mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On the mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it.
I dip in the corner in something imported. I'm copping the land at the sand where the shore is beautiful. Women who time in the mirror to show up the shows and see me perform this. Used to ignore me, I'm all the day here, but I used to be timid. I don't know what fear is. Just talked to my dog and he told me he got me. I hopped up the line and went straight to go get it. I got us. Building this up out of mortar and brick. The way that it's going, I don't see it ending. The pigment is tinted. I'm really that. Go figure. I'm tapped into a higher power, feeling bigger than me. It's centering me. My enemy silent. They see that I'm fire. I can't put my energy.
Welcome back once again to the final day of the NAL season, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get ready for our 3rd match. Still an interesting one, still with major contentions on the line for at least one of these teams, and for the other, it's all about trying to qualify and lock in their invitation to SI. It'll be Astralis, of course, looking for that major spot, as you may have heard the desk discussing, and the Sonics, or excuse me, Oxygen, rather, will be able to move in and claim their spot at SI if they're able to take control of this one, but unfortunately getting to the major for them is too far out of the cards. Now that we're in the arena, though, let's talk about some more important stuff, namely Callout's outfit. What is going on?
I really don't know, John. Pretty interesting stuff. He went with no sleeves on the dress shirt.
I think they went to the. I can still see like the curves from when they unfolded the shirt on his shirt. They went right to the store, snapped those sleeves right off, and threw that thing on along with a tie. I gotta respect. I don't think we're gonna get a good look at it here before we get in game, but
I'm sure
we'll
we will.
see it at some point once Astralis claims are around, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it as it is time to get started here on Villa for our 3rd battle.
Yes, indeed, my friend. I really wish they would have serrated it almost and then just allowed him to tear them off. Like a tactical timeout or something. But either way, we are going to be hopping into Villa here. And as John was just stating, this is a very big matchup, folks, here for the Game 3 slot of our last day on the NAL. Astralis versus Oxygen, both of them with a lot on the line. Astralis looking to go to their 3rd major. Yes, 3 majors in 1 year. Oxygen looking to confirm their berth to 6 Invitational later on into next year. 2023, actually right around the corner, although it feels like still we just started 2022.
Yep, well, let's see, though, which fate will end up coming true. For Astralis, obviously, a lot more in the future in its immediacy. And if we're being real with ourselves, Oxygen should more than likely still end up qualifying for SI. Even if they don't end up closing down this match, they still have a possibility to do so just at a later point today as well. So they're not going to be at potential risk for not making it should they lose this match. Away from that, though, we're looking at the initial start, and it's actually potentially going to be a pretty interesting one coming in here for Oxygen. They're going to go for the dining room and kitchen hold first off. Normally, of course, we see teams trending over over towards that second floor hold inside of AVG, but there has been some more mixed results. Specifically, I think, if memory served me correctly, for Oxygen on those sites. So maybe wanting to try something a little bit different here to start off.
Yes, indeed. And we'll just get this out of the way early on here, John. So we'll talk about the standings and why Astralis has gotten to this point where they can still make it to the major, even though the start of this stage wasn't exactly all that great. They're currently sitting at 5th right now with a 3-1-2-2 record. That means they lost some games inside of overtime as well as 1-1. They're +2 on their round differential, but they're at 13 points. Now, this is the big deal here because Mirage is at 15 points, which, I mean, if you know the basic math of how our league works, 3 points for a victory in regulation. So if Astralis closes this out, they will actually indeed be able to push past Mirage, grasping that 4th slot, resting at 16 points, and not a single other team in the league can touch them. And obviously for Oxygen, just SI points, and we have those over on Liquipedia if you'd like to look at those.
Getting into the round, though, Oxygen, obviously with a pretty spread out start here, since they're going to be down on that first floor hold, is going to actually leave the bedroom potential opening a little bit vulnerable, in my opinion, as the Astralis do have a pretty clean path to work their way into the master route. And then, of course, because they're going to be bringing the sledge, they'll be able to open up top-down angles and assumably get faster control of the site through that. So that step shouldn't be taking up too much of their time. However, what is going to take up a lot of the early seconds on the round here is going to be that additional drone time that they're going to need to use to figure out this kind of tricky play that Oxygen's going for. Very split up. That does mean that their individual members are not going to have a lot of support, so if any one of these players ends up getting cut off without returning damage, it will all be for naught at the end of the day, but still, a lot of distraction and very difficult to tear apart just because of the fact that players are not playing into the expected positions, and as you just saw there with Foxe, rapidly moving around the map, so the kind of shape of this puzzle is also changing every time they look at it.
Yes, indeed. We've had quite a few very solid matches on Villa throughout the stage thus far, and one of them was by Astralis. Not so much by Iconic, more or less a lot of Forest in that game, but the result practically the same. Astralis going to get the opening blood onto Vertical. They found at least a body for now. Oxygen still reeling on the top floor. Don't have to worry about too much. They'll be able to recreate some holes here and assist with this clear that Astralis has going down low.
Away from that, though, Oxygen not seeing any immediate counter-reaction to the loss of Vertical from the beginning of the round here. Still seeing at least 1 or 2 of those players maintaining their out-and-about positions because of the potential flank they could have against the take should Astralis continue to move forward with their current plan. Now that they have access to the living room, it looks like they are going to move forward, try to get pantry control, and then they'll attempt to go for a vertical pinch from there. As you can tell, though, it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to accomplish because they haven't completed the top clear. DP Fire now going down. I think that's Capcan Traps that brings him down as well. Thankfully, not going to be able to immediately finish that player off. DP Fire will have a teammate close enough to revive him and bring him back into the fold, but obviously a much lower HP.
Well, Astralis, not very many options any longer. They have EMPs and the ability to get the pantry wall open, but past that, it's going to be hard fought. Iconic finds Newers here, but Sweater's going to immediately refrag as he'll reclaim into Laundry. Dream is somehow going to stab J90 all in that process as well, as Oxygen is quickly pulling ahead, nipping at the heels of the offense. Astralis will go down to yet another EE1D, shuttle to the flames as well. It's all down to the lone soul of Forest in Kitchen. It's a 1 versus 3. We've seen him do so much on Villa previously, but so far this round hasn't been able to do too much. I'm going to call in some logic bombs as the EBR back out. He'll take the initial fight, and it's going to be Foxe to take him down. Oxygen with 1.
Force, no room to play that out. Massive props to Newers, by the way. He got a pretty much perfect record on the EDDs inside of that one. Got 2 kills over the course of the round with those downs. One of them ended up being a revive, of course, but still it's perfect placement on his utility. As both of the double sets, you're given 5 at the start of the round, so realistically you can kill 2 players, and he got 2 of them down, although one, of course, did get revived.
Yeah, Astralis really just sending it for the site there as well once they got that big pick onto Oxygen, but Oxygen with their top floor control were very easily able to reinforce into the site and make it to where it wasn't as clear-cut for Astralis. They weren't able to quickly get that kill and kind of hold control over the site, allowing more Astralis members to pour in and get that plant down. Rather, Oxygen was able to nip it in the bud very quickly because of the response time. So very well done from them, especially the play coming through the laundry hatch. That's something that Astralis could have prevented just by simply playing somebody outside of the door, but probably didn't really think that Oxygen were going to go for it so full bore like they did. So again, very, very solid play there from OXG, but a long road still ahead of them. It's only 1 round on the starting half here.
Let's see our qualification standards once again, folks, just in case you needed to refresh on them one final time. It's pretty straightforward for this game. Astralis wins, they go to the major. Otherwise, neither of these teams are heading to the major. If Oxygen wins, Oxygen will lock in SI points, of course, but Aside from that, it will actually lock in, if memory serves me correctly, Mirage's ascent to the Major instead, should Astralis end up losing this game. So they're very much preying on the they're very much preying on the downfall of Astralis right now. And unfortunately, it's just not happening. Newers goes for an aggressive play and gets caught red-handed in his attempt to do it. J9O will claim the first kill.
Doesn't even tag up J9O either. Likely thought somebody was already up on the balcony, but gets caught off guard by the Repel player instead. Just an awkward angle you have to worry about whenever you do make an aggressive play like that. And even if you are as solid of a player as Newers, it could still catch you off guard. So Astralis can have the lead pick again, but that doesn't mean that they have the round. We already saw how round 1 went. Oxygen could have an answer for this, but it doesn't come just yet. DP Fire with the next kill here on to Vertical. Foxay on death's door, although more than likely doesn't know it just yet. Back and forth they go, both with actually the same exact gun, if you didn't know. EBR both in their hand. Forrest will begin rotating through that bottom level. Him and Foxay on a collision course here, inevitably, if he ends up moving out of this green pasture. So Astralis, at least with the opening bloods here. Auction not able to find a response just yet, but Foxay trying to sit out here on an island and see if he can find himself something to pull Oxygen back across the line.
So it has come to a bit of a stop for Astralis, and at the very same point, they ran into issues on their round 1 clear as well. Same as the round 1 clear, they've had very little issue establishing initial map presence and clearing out at least some of the stragglers from Oxygen, but Oxygen was able to surprise due to the lack of a second floor clear on the previous round, and ultimately crunch the play that Astralis attempted to make. Going to be a little bit more difficult to pull off the same feat this time, although the flank work can still come out, mainly from the Astra Stairs department, if those players are going to be left undisturbed. As you can see, Foxay over here by Mudroom, and I believe he has at least one of their teammates somewhere in the area as well, but closer probably to the front stairs. But still, there is play potential here, as Astralis once again is focusing entirely on the horizontal play, not so much on the vertical.
Yeah, Astralis has been extremely patient past those first 2 picks. They haven't been trying to give Oxygen too many looks, but it's also allowed Foxay to circumnavigate the entirety of Astralis' lineup. I don't know if he's going to be able to sneak in behind them here and get some big kills, but that could be a round ender. We'll just have to see. Sweater's going to end up making himself some rotations as well as some verticality through the floor here to try and abuse anybody rotating at the bottom of the stairwell. Astralis with so many bodies trying to send it in towards the site. Sweater has an answer for that, though, after they're going to lose Dream. Back and forth we go inside of Plains. What a shot from Sweater to take down Shuttle, but that's not going to prevent the plant that's currently going down inside of the games bar. A beautiful swing from Iconic will take down 1, and that's going to be all she wrote for round 2. AST tie things up.
Took us a while for Astralis to boost up the Rockets, but once they were able to get them into a good position, it did seem like a pretty straightforward closeout at the end of the day. Just took a little bit longer to figure out their intel base, get their drones into the interior of the site, and get a confident push rolling there, which is why we saw that massive gap in the middle of the round.
I'd say even though past that, a big thing with Siege is if they're going to give you those 2 big picks initially, just take your time.
That's exactly what they did.
You have 2 minutes and 15 seconds at that moment. You might as well be patient, be cautious, hold angles, see if Oxygen is going to try and do something to manipulate their position and possibly die because of that. They have to play aggressively to try and get this man count in check, because if they don't, they're going to lose the round. I mean, you saw how simple it was for Astralis to take that simply because they had more manpower, which is always something that you're looking for in Siege.
And Oxygen did have presence to potentially try and crunch that up, Foxay being the most notable of those, and that definitely caused some hesitation on the Astralis side of things. Unlike the first round, though, making that play from the bottom to the top is a lot more difficult than the other way around, so we did not see that crunch find anywhere near the degree of success it was ever really attempted. We didn't get to see Foxay towards the tail end of that round, so unsure where he ended up trying to play it once everything was said and done, but still much more limited potential to come out from him, as he was not able to show face and actually put the fear into Astralis to make them give second thoughts to their attack.
Yeah, a very serious build-up for his own game, just for it to kind of fizzle out.
Yeah, I mean, like, he didn't really do anything from Mudroom.
Yeah, exactly.
He looked for opportunities, don't get me wrong. Like, we've seen him peeking out the window every once in a while and looking for rotation plays. Just nothing realistic was presented to him, so.
Astralis also, for their flanks, where they were established, right, had some very solid holds going on as well. And even past that, since they did lose at least an initial person, or actually, rather, they didn't even. So they still had everyone locking down staircases and everything else. So you really didn't even have to have, a permanent drone watcher there while everybody else gets their jobs done. You can just have somebody babysit stuff, which is even better for that situation. So But either way, we're into round 3 now here. Astralis and Oxygen tied up 1-1. Foxay is going to make things a little worse for wear, though, as Iconic will go down. He's been feeling himself through these first 2 rounds, but he's not going to be feeling a lot because he doesn't have a pulse at the current moment.
That's the play from Foxay we were expecting to be made in the previous round there, down towards Mud. Just never really got the opportunity to do so. This time, it walks right towards his face as he takes full control, knocks out Iconic, and now leaves Vertical. Trying to pick up some more of the slack downstairs, or rather upstairs inside of AVG. Foxay, though, may very well be priming himself for a second pick, and he's going to find it at the cost of his teammate, though. Vertical does get traded closer to off. The Shuttle also finds another pickup against Sweater. That suddenly left Foxay on an island where even he might not be able to escape, but he gets it done regardless until he's finally shut down by J9O in the exchange for his last kill.
Land Fox is back? Question mark. We'll have to see here. Some big kills coming from him there. I love the decision making for the aggressive peek on main stairs as well. Some very solid stuff, but Oxygen somehow still whittled down to a 2 versus 2. Oh, a slap from J9O. A triple for him. Almost a quad kill. Newers, he'll get tagged up quite a bit. Oh! He'll let the MPX sing. Doesn't even flinch. Knows how solid the shot that was. Foxay, even at a loss for words there for a moment. Foxay walked so that Newers could run for round 3. Oxygen up 2-1.
Pretty much, yeah. OXG just playing their trades as appropriately as they could. Foxay definitely getting the gold star for that initial pickoff because that ignites the play capability from the rest of Oxygen that allows them to win out the round, where they just take a bunch of detached 1v1s and quite literally trade their way towards a win there. As we saw Newers finally pick up another 2K at the tail end of the round.
Yeah, Astralis have backed this animal into a corner in this round, right? They're trying to play pretty aggressively and do what they do best, but, I mean, this dog has fangs, John, and it bites back. Oxygen very quickly answering, especially for Fox's sake, as he basically dealt with the brute force of Astralis through study as well as downstairs, all single-handedly. They had to chase him from study balcony down the main damn stairs, man. That is some crazy stuff. You don't see that every day.
Astralis will more than likely have to put priority on controlling this extended game to some extent, as we are returning back to the very same grounds where Oxygen also closed down on their initial round. Back on round 1, mainly because, again, of the unmitigated upstairs holds that were causing problems on top of the interior site clear that Astralis was struggling with. Now, the opening clear, we're not expecting too many struggles there. Astralis have shown good examples of being able to manage that, but as of the last round, that slowed down a little bit, so you can expect a little bit of trepidation from the rest of Astralis as well. We're trying to clear things out here, especially considering the prominence that that extended game has had over the past 2 rounds now from Oxygen.
Okay, so Astralis, so what is our answer here? It's round 4, halfway through their first side, and not only that, but it's offensive side of Villa. This map, pretty well cut down the middle in comparison to a lot of the maps that we have in the pool right now. I believe it's 46% on the offensive side and 53%, relatively speaking, on the defensive end. So obviously Oxygen should just by proxy be ahead here, but it's still very close fought. Every one of these rounds thus far, minus the last one where we saw Foxay kind of take a hold of things, but even then it still boils down to a 2 versus 2. So Vertical has somebody inside of his bathroom trying to get him to motion. He knows that he's here as well, ready for the aim duel, but is he prepared for the onslaught that's directly next door? Forrest will finally pop through Mud and take him down, and that's going to be Astralis 3 for 3 on their entries.
So you can tell what the priority is now here from Astralis, definitely wanting to try and make sure that this game does not become a problem for them on the extension as we get towards the tail end of these executes. They'll be peeled back. Players on Oxygen are going to look to try and control themselves a little bit better here as well. And that leaves Astralis with a bit of a lack for options at this point. They've been able to clear things out for the most part on the upstairs partition, but we still have that Oryx lurking around from Sweater, and it's going to be hard to predict when and where he will pop up here, but Astralis starting to line themselves up outside of Pantry, and a few of the other execution points does look like once again they're going to drift towards working towards the execution sooner rather than later, while we still have a few threats just on the outside from Oxygen.
And you can see how worried Astralis are about Oxygen's flanks. Even when they were in that massive difference in their man count, they were still really worried about what Foxay's potential was. And even with this pick, it's more of the same, trying to manage the stairwells around the map and make sure that Oxygen can't find an answer, and rather the shoe on the other foot. Astralis will surge forward, foot on the accelerator, RPMs high, access to all that horsepower, but nice. Dream will take down DP Fire. He'll charge forward. Everyone's asleep on Astralis, but Forrest has the plant down. Foxay's found space. He's dead to the world. Dream somehow still managing to stay alive around Tetris. He has Sweater here as well. Dream, he's going to go on the chase. They know he's here, though. Fantastic audio awareness from J9O. It's all down to Sweater here. has to try and clutch up. He's going to try and fake things out on the case here. They have the verticality, so much work for him to do. He can't get the crucial shots, though. He tries to dash out, finds some space over here in China. But this round, more than likely going to Astralis. So many angles for him to worry about in minimal time. He'll finally go down to the axe of J90, and we'll tie things up.
So Astralis bring things back under their own control after struggling again at the previous round. They're able to quickly fix their issues and once again solve that problem. There's a little bit of a potential issue that we're maybe going to see come forth in the next 2 rounds. The fact that it did take them a while to get the justification to actually move into the site. As Stokes mentioned, they were very worried about the potential flanks that could come down to haunt them, but thankfully they're able to figure things out with about a minute and excess and establish more than appropriate Overwatch to make sure that the players that were going to the interior of the site would not get messed with by those flanks. And as such, we see a pretty successful execute go off. Obviously, Dream causes some problems in the midst of that. I think there was an informational gap that led to that chain of events, but thankfully, he did not have the best support. So once Astralis had dealt with him, there was no further threat.
Yeah, for having a sleeveless coach standing behind them, they're pretty controlled about all of these situations thus far. We're not seeing anything, no caution to the wind or anything like that. I would say maybe a little bit in the early round, with that round specifically that we saw Fox, they get a lot of kills over on Study, but past that, Astralis have been very cool, calm, and collected in their assault onto Oxygen's defenses. Oxygen, though, have done a pretty bang-up job themselves, especially in the fight department, doing such a good job of taking these proper duels and making sure to at least keep things reasonable for their defensive setup. And it's led us to this point. These last 2 rounds are going to be extremely crucial for both sides, and it all starts here at AVG.
All right, well, Oxygen back into a very extended position once again. You'll note there's actually no one playing the interior of the site at this moment. It's going to change in a minute, as I believe Newers is beginning to rotate back to play to the inside of Gun Vaults. They won't actually leave it fully exposed. So we need to set things up a little bit more, and apparently Vertical still setting things up a little bit over there as he places down one final barricade. Towards the tail end of the free seconds they would have for themselves. Astralis now need to work to the inside of it themselves. We'll begin to see them working on that process already, seeing at least one piece of intel being gathered out downstairs on the first floor as they've sent the Yana clone in. Aside from that, though, it is still all about building up the drone informational base, as they do not want to trifle with Fox's games or potentially another member of Auction if they decided to play things out once again, just like a few rounds back. Concern that's been dealt with for the most part, though, so I don't imagine there's any true fears lurking in the Auction comms, or rather the Astralis comms right now, as they begin to get themselves ready to work into Study here.
The key thing is, right, is that they got so many nades, so much utility to try and cut through all of the stuff that Auction has set up. So it's going to be some time. We're going to see really what Astralis' brain is considering throughout this, right? You can see them setting things up for a hop out down low so that Ace can support himself for 90 window, and they can eventually get Gun Vault open. They're also worried about main stairs. This is a hot commodity a lot of the times when it comes to this site, and something that we see Flores try and deal with majority of the time, but it's quite difficult, especially when you have a team as solid as Oxygen managing these doorways and making it where those Rotero drones cannot work their way in properly. But Astralis have found the counter. It's going to be a full-on bull rush up the main stairs, and they'll take out 2 because of it.
As a result, once again, Oxygen going to be left at a disadvantageous scenario. They do still have the primary amount of their anchors alive and, well, mostly full HP as well. So certainly playable at the end of the day, just difficult, as it's a situation they've already put themselves in multiple times in just this half alone, though. Oxygen is not going to give up without a true fight here. And Astralis knows that, so they're going to take the excess time they do have remaining. Once again, trying to build up the info base. You say that, but you don't actually have a whole lot of droning going on over on the Astralis. You can look at the left side and see that right now. No one on it, just kind of keeping their angles established in the event that someone from Oxygen tries to make a play, but it's not going to end up happening. Now the drones begin to move forward. Finally finds out the position of Vertical, forces him a little bit further back onto the red stairs, and does open up for the rappel swing for the player on 90. Full hallway control, now over towards Astralis.
Oh my God!
No respect coming in from Astralis, though. They just forced the issue directly through the door into the site, and are able to close out on the trades.
No respect for Oxygen, but I'm pretty sure everyone has respect for Iconic with that play. My God, the balls on this man. He climbs on top of the game's bar to get the angle on the Azami, throwing caution into the wind. Just like we said earlier, I don't think Astralis is going to do anything too crazy. And then this execute comes through. Huge plays onto main stairs, backed up by Astralis' onslaught onto the actual physical site. Oxygen can do nothing about it. Blown away with the wind. Now Astralis will take the lead for the very first time here.
One final opportunity for Oxygen to try and take an advantage out of this scenario here. Could at least tie us up at 3-3, but it's going to be over in Trophy and Statuary. We have been able to see them find success earlier on inside of this half. Meanwhile, for the Astralis camp, we are going to see a few small adjustments, mainly just Iconic going back over to the Twitch for the comfort pick, especially considering we're going to be upstairs now. Don't have a whole lot of use for the Buck, never mind the Sledge as well, though the Sledge can certainly still find some use on this attack, especially once they begin to work their way into this part of the map right here, towards Walk-In, and a few other spots aside from that as well. No surprises, though, on the attacking lineup and the defensive lineup as well, similar to what we've already seen throughout this half from Oxygen.
And just like Oxygen is sticking to their guns, Astralis will as well. J9O sticking to the Finka. Iconic will be switching things up back to the Twitch that we'd seen him on previously. And what a show it is whenever Iconic does have the F2 in his hands. But we haven't even mentioned like the likes of DP Fire and what he's been doing. Same as J9O. It's been a huge game for Alf. Oh, Newers. He's going to want that one back. Shuttle from downrange. The first bullet out of the L85 meets his skull. And Newers now down for the count. Oxygen doing their damnedest to try and bring this back as well. That's Sweater challenging with an SMG-11, folks. That's a lot of confidence.
Oxygen already going to be down a player again at the beginning of the round. A fate they've dealt with, like I said, at the middle point of the last round, though. So
Majority of these rounds. I think they only had one kill as an opening.
I want to say we're like,
I think Astralis has technically gotten all 5. I'm not going to lie to you.
I want to say we're like 5-1 on opening kills right now in the favor of Astralis. So, like I said, something that Oxygen's definitely used to dealing with, but that doesn't necessarily mean they found the correct solution to that. As far as Storm's in, DP Fire does as well. The entire extended AVG setup falls to pieces yet again. Sweater going to try to be the saving grace here as he does find at least one exchange from the top of the red stairs. Potentially risking his own life, though, continuing to take that fight as you see a third of his HP clipped off. So he finally backs away, goes to the depths of the site, as will Dream now, playing over by the trophy connector. They will simply wait for the rest of the push to come in from Astralis, it looks like.
Well, it was an immaculate misconception from Oxygen there, John. Astralis with everyone on this one side of the map. Astralis thinks, or rather Oxygen thinks, that they can just slink off into the night without being punished, just delaying some time and making their way back towards their actual site. But Astralis has every exit locked down. Makes it so difficult for Oxygen to try and skimper on by, and they lose bodies because of it. But at least able to get one because of Dream's efforts. So Oxygen still with a chance here, able to win things out and tie things up 3-3.
Nitro is going to end up being chucked away here by Sweater. Not to a whole lot of success ultimately. And as Oxygen simply sit back and wait. They have been able to make this a little bit more winnable due to the pickup from Dream after he ventured out from the connector a few moments prior. And that's definitely causing the same level of hesitation we've been seeing from Astralis. Even when they've been executing into these like 5v3s that we've seen on a few of these past rounds here, it's a very similar scenario in terms of number count right now. So Astralis is going to be taking a step back, definitely emphasizing again their intel game here to try to see if they can find out, if at all possible, where Sweater and Dream are going to be playing from. More importantly here is you're seeing also repositioning two of their players so they can pinch this out a little bit more appropriately. Coming in, of course, from the top of Red Landing, as well as assumably Master, although J9O gets a little bit scared. Here's something, thankfully, it's the right thing as he shuts down at least one, but Sweater is not giving up the fight just yet. Tries to finish off the 1v1 with a shotty, but now heads for the hills instead. Shuttle may have very well missed that transition. This is a big moment for him to see if he's going to be able to read into that intel appropriately. Plant will go down in a relatively safe position. So now more than likely has noted that fall off. Sweater will also not have the capability to play this because of the plant position that it's gone down in. So Sweater as well needs to reignite himself. Potential cross right there through the breach, but Shuttle has established himself for it. Will he be expecting the crouch play? No, he won't. It's a quad from Sweater to save the half for Oxygen as they tie it up 3-3 instead.
Give it to the man. Sign the contract, John. Everybody was doubting Sweater at the start of the stage, but Oxygen showing everyone exactly why they thought this roster would work out. Give the man a badge. Let me tell you, looking pretty solid thus far. Oxygen going to tie things up 3-3 off the back of a quad kill out of Sweater. When they needed him most, when the bat signal was in the sky, John, he responded, was able to get as many kills as he could potentially muster, which just happened to be almost all of Astralis. And what a half we've had. Astralis now going to have to switch gears on over to defense, and we'll have to see what both of these respective sides think about this. Thus far, though, I'd say it's been a pretty even matchup, although Astralis very dominant in the opener.
Not the end of the world for Astralis to lose that final round and, of course, go into the second half at a 3-3 scoreline. This map does, in this stage at least, trend itself to be a little bit more defender-sided, so assumably that we play into that statistic, Astralis should be able to bounce back here, take control. Assuming, of course, they want that major spot, as they need to win this game out one way or another. Overtime does not matter in this specific situation. They just need to win it one way or another, and they will be going to the major. If not, Mirage, waiting on the sidelines after their game a little bit earlier on today, will instead be heading to the major.
Yeah, and that's all due to Mirage's round differential, actually, because Mirage ended up on a 0 for their round differential, whereas Astralis, before this match started, was at +2. So even if it does go to overtime, they win by 1, they're still +3 on the round differential, and they will end up going because they are tied in points. So for Mirage, they're really banking on the fact that Oxygen win this. They're probably Oxygen's biggest cheerleaders right now in Vegas.
All right, well, let's see if Oxygen can get the job done. Like I said, halfway there now after tying things up at a 3-3 scoreline. Just need to win the majority of this half, and things will be looking a little bit better, but Shuttle gets Astralis off to a booming start. Begin this half instead, taking down Newers and eliminating the Yana from contention, so taking quite a bit of intel away from the attack. Shouldn't be round-breaking, though, as far as Oxygen's intel game is concerned. They still have the Twitch drones on top of course, 5 normal drones that can be sent out, so should be able to work with that without an issue, but they are going to be missing their potential entry.
Oxygen pretty quick to Pantry. Force is going to take down Vertical, and that was the player inside of Pantry. So it doesn't seem like Oxygen was exactly prepared for them to be there just yet. Fox 8 trying to make the most of the situation. He was going to come in from the mud side while they were obviously distracted, but now there's really not much going on around the map. Force is going to take some heat, actually, so I'm actually going to take those words back. Apparently we had Sweater on an angle. He'll take down Forrest, and this is going to open things up just a little bit wider for Fox. It's on the patience game for him. These decisions going to be extremely big. Shuttle's going to take down Sweater now, though, but this will give some info over to Fox A.
Oh.
He's gotten one. He knows the other one's in the area, in the vicinity, but he'll take down Shuttle either way. Astralis is still making it out up a man.
Jay Neno, pretty smartly, in my opinion, does back up, looks for a counter reaction to his position now that he had been spotted out instead of trying to go back in and immediately retake the fight versus Fox A right there. They still have the player advantage, and of course, he would have given out the comms as to Fox A's position, so there was still one more player in Tarps that could overwatch for Fox A instead. Nice play here from Janitor to kind of stabilize things for Astralis. We'll see if it pays out, though. This is where it gets a bit precarious. Fox A has fully backed up, gone all the way over towards the front entrance and around those stairs to be able to make it to this current position. Oh, where they just fully have the read on him, unfortunately. J9O swings with a teammate detached from him. They knock him down, leaving only Dream in the fight now for a 1v3. Fortunately, not going to stand a chance inside of it due to the position he's playing from. So it is indeed going to be Astralis taking back the lead to start out the second half.
Astralis are 6 for 1 on entry. Absolutely incredible. And not only that, but it hasn't even been done mostly by Forrest here. And Forrest, if you didn't know, is actually our leading entry, although he's usually playing like Doke and other stuff, across the entirety of the league. Plus 16 before this game started on his entry stat. And that's not even to mention the amount of duels that he's actually had this stage. Let me just get this official number here for you folks. 30 total entry contentions. Imagine that. 23-7 on entry. Truly incredible stuff. After that, it's going to force a tactical timeout, though, from Oxygen. Astralis just getting way too far ahead early on there, and there really wasn't anything that Oxygen could do about it. Their timing was a little weird, especially with what was going on in Pantry. Fantastic position. Definitely one that you want to take up for Kitchen, but they didn't really have anything else in time or rather there to be able to assist them with what was going on. So a little unfortunate circumstances befalling OXG, but we'll see what they can do with this tac timeout.
That does mean there could be some issues as well, depending on how much they were able to actually read into from the first round for adapting to anything else that Astralis brings out that's new here, and that Oxygen are going to be struggling with ultimately. So we'll have to wait and see here. This early tactical pause obviously going to give Oxygen a moment to think for themselves how they need to fix their approach after round number 1, but at the same time, Astralis were not even really that deep into their defensive side yet, so curious as to how much Oxygen was actually able to glean from just that one round.
Loving the options that we're seeing here from Oxygen. Vertical, he was thinking about the Nomad, going to switch it on over to Jackal, and the reason that Oxygen would want this over the Nomad is simply because a lot of these kills that Astralis have been going for have been very early on in the round. They just need to be aware of their spawn peaks and then get a foothold on the map, and if they're able to just get that tiny little grasp, they're more than likely going to have info for free because of it. Air jabs are fantastic because you can just set them and forget them on flank, but a lot of the times, especially nowadays with roamers, they usually have impacts, John. And it's very annoying when you're running stuff like air jabs because it's very simplistic for them to be able to break down. So you'd much rather just cover that off with a drone and then just use something like Jackal to really force the roam game back, because otherwise they're more than likely going to get sussed out by that Inox.
All right, well, we are well into the round now.
I didn't even
We're going
notice,
to
but
see.
Newer's also switched on over to Lion.
Yep.
So, and they also have the Doke. So, I mean, 3 for 3 on the
This
ops.
is just a very annoying comp to play against if you're Astralis, and especially Astralis given the way he played things out in round 7 as well, because Astralis has been very active in wanting to peak windows, peak angles, the E1D constantly going off alongside the phone calls, and maybe at least 1 or 2 people getting their feet scanned every few seconds as well. It's going to make it quite difficult for you to do anything aggressive on the defense here, which I think is exactly the goal from Oxygen with this setup. So far, it's going to work quite well. We've got Vertical sneaking up as well. Goes completely unnoticed. Just snipes out Forrest, but he fails to account for Shuttle, sitting just 1 further flight ahead of him on the stairs there. So takes him down. Sweater will be able to finish off Iconic, but we had seen him get down a moment ago. More than likely a nade or some other stray explosive that takes him down. DP Fire, though, with a snipe and a half on the SMG-11. Just destroys Sweater and re-evens out our player count. We may not stay that way for very long, though, as Jano has got some heat on him, but he's ready for the challenge on the Azami. Both those Kiba barricades go out and allow for a free reposition for him.
What an incredible operator. You can see why she's been banned so often this stage, because those moments where with any other character in the game, John, you'd be dead to rights. She's able to quickly skirt around that because of her kunai, slap those Kiba barriers up, and vacate the premises. Oxygen have been boxed out in a certain sense of the term. Unable to really find another area to entry from on the actual main area. They've gotten down low, but that doesn't really account for much when all of Astralis is begging for them to push towards the site.
Oxygen falling behind a little bit here now, more so in time than anything else, but thankfully, given the position of at least some of their players, shouldn't be a make or break issue. Dream has the angle here to at least 1 member of Astralis trying to flank from the main stairs. The big question right now, though, where is the rest of Oxygen? Obviously, we got the answer for Newers, and of course, Dream, as we were just on his POV. Foxe, I'm going to assume, is playing with Newers right now, but we'll more than likely see him in a moment here. Dream has actually had to fall back, establish just a rappel position away from Study, and now finally, Foxe is going to end up regrouping with Newers, as the team has less than 30 seconds left now to make their attack.
This is a huge issue for Oxygen, mostly because they have to have Dream manage the window over on Study. So if Fox or Newers dies here, this more than likely doesn't go down. It's really up to Oxygen to have the perfect cover for this situation. They're going to try and rotate off. What a smart play from Oxygen, forcing Astralis to think that it's going to be into the vault side, but now they overwhelm the setup, and they've got the plant going down. DP Fire doesn't have a counter to this either. He's smoke, no mute, doesn't have a nitro cell, but he's got it down onto Newers. Doesn't have any more smoke nades, though. It's doable. SMG-11, one of the best guns to ever grace Rainbow Six Siege, and it's in the hands of an incredible player. DP Fire will take down Dream. It's a triple kill. John Astralis trying to go up 5-3. It's up to Foxe, one of the most long-standing players of Oxygen, to try and put them back into the good graces of this offense, and he'll get it done. Oxygen shut it down before it can get too big of a flame.
Messy execute stage right there, really, for both teams coming into it. We saw Astralis kind of overplay their hand a little bit inside of the 3v3, tried to extend a third player downstairs, thinking that the 2 Insight players would have been able to win at least 1 fight each to bring it down to a 3v1, where that crunch would have shut things down. Unfortunately, that ends up costing them the entire site, as they don't have enough players on it to fend off things when the initial entry is successful from Newers. Past that point, obviously, a little bit of a blunder allowing that last player on Astralis to actually get back into the site for the first place. Thought we would have seen an absolute lockdown, but thankfully Foxe, ready for the challenge, still clutches it out when it comes down to the final 1v1.
Yeah, back and forth we go on that round, right? I mean, truly incredible stuff. I love the decision from Oxygen on their execution, though, because everything that they were doing was building up towards that plane side execute where we're going to see them go for vault door. But just given the circumstances of how Astralis was set up, it'd be very difficult for them to try and do that and try and wedge themselves in without something going critically wrong with, you know, the Overwatch on that type of a deal. So instead, they immediately throw it to the other side as fast as they can. They catch Astralis completely off guard, overwhelming the player on the games bar, and then they're able to take control of the entire site because of it. I mean, truly incredible recognition from Oxygen coming out and knowing that they had to try and make a play there. Don't just go for something plain Jane, and it pays off.
We're going to see a bit of a quick storm coming over towards Pantry from Auction. They bring an interesting operator lineup too. The Lion making a return, of course, but we get a Thatcher in for Sweater alongside, of course, the Osa being played by Vert 2. Forrest immediately comes under contention because of this quick clear. Loses the barricade on the upstairs window too. He's going to try to impact out the Selma. First charge still ends up going out, but he should have been able to mitigate the seconds. Just creates a slight gap. Oh no, he actually got both. Nicely done. Got up before the first one went off, so very well done there. At least eats up 1/3 of the hard breach utility from the attackers, and doesn't look like he was chased too heavily on his retreat into the basement as well. So there's a drone. Keep an overwatch for him in the event he decides to come back, but still should have been able to make it out of there without too much of a problem. And as long as he stays away from there, he'll make it to a later point this round to fight it out still.
Yeah, well, the good news is that they really only need one Selma for this site, and it's specifically for Pantry. So as long as they can guarantee that gets open at a later date, that's really all they have to worry about. Majority of the other walls are soft that they have to try and go for, although it wasn't exactly a big thing, at least, a year ago, but as we've seen Villa progress through time, a lot of people really enjoying playing the walls down low for Laundry soft rather than hard, just so they can try and influence any players rotating in there. Dream is going to get gunned down, though, and that's going to make it to where they can't open Pantry any longer. So Sweater's going to have to try and play inside of this room instead of what he could have done normally, which was outside on the actual balcony from that window. So they'll definitely be aware of this, as obviously Sweater is making a lot of noise getting this door open, but obviously there's still 3 other players to try and worry about. One of them's Vertical, who was trying to move in through Laundry, but second guesses it. Rotate back off before Oxygen try and go for their mastermind plan.
Plan is struggling here from Oxygen, mainly with respect to where they put these OSAs down. Now, I assume what the plan was going to be after they breached out Pantry was going to be have someone play the angle from the outside of Pantry window and then establish the OSA barricades to allow the plant to go down. There's not a similar-ish angle that they can really deploy that towards, except for maybe the walk-in from Laundry, and even that is going to come with a lot of risk just due to the fact that you won't be able to support it as well as I think Oxygen at least would like here, so they are struggling to come up with a winning option. Although, of course, now trading things out onto J9. No, but Newers as well, caught by the Frost Trap here. Thankfully, will be brought back, but obviously he'll be at limited HP, and now they are down another player due to Forrest's most recent pickup.
Welcome, Mats. Best against bronzes and professional players. That's real. I'm not even lying. It's a bell curve. DP Fire, though. Speaking of professional players, will get gunned down. Oxygen, Troop, or rather Newers, triple kill for him. A little bit of a combination of words there, but Newers always making me lose my words when it comes to his ability, and he's going to have quite that in order to lock this down. Forrest has it, but he knows that Vertical has to make a move here. Soft breach, close, pistol, my God. Wow, what a round that was to close out. Yeah, very awkward there, John. That's why I was just letting it play out, because I literally did not have words for the decisions that we were about to see. I didn't know if it was going to go right, left, in between, upside down, corkscrew. That's really what we got there. I mean, that was an ill-cam shot if I've ever seen one. Wow, Oxygen able to get that off the back of missed pistol shots.
Yeah, like the last round, just a little bit scrappy at the end of the day on the execute there. We see members of Oxygen getting away with a heck of a lot more, in my opinion, than they should have gotten away with, given how desperate their overall strategy position was, approaching the actual site in those final seconds. But as we see there, that last attempted pistol play coming in just does not lead to success, so Oxygen is able to make that round work after everything is said and done.
The thing that threw me off the most was Newers taking all of that damage and then still just being in, sentry mode. Everybody that entered the room, he just guns them down immediately. I'm like, this guy has 1 HP, and he's not dead. Either way, what an effort from Newers there. A quad kill on the round, single-handedly shutting down Astralis, and this is what we've seen out of a lot of the very solid Oxygen rounds, is that one of these players is able to step up to the plate and knock a home run out. And we're not talking about a small, single-run play. We're talking about multi-run plays here, 3 runs every single time. So, fantastic stuff across the board from OXG.
Just in this game, we had Sweater with the 1v4 a few rounds back, and now we've got Newers picking up what essentially basically turned into a near 1v4 for him as well, as he had to do most of the heavy lifting there just to set his other teammate up for the final 1v1.
Some Foxay with some big kills as well, and Dream on top of that also with some big rounds as well. Vertical's really been the quiet member for Oxygen throughout this. So.
Not to any hugely contrasting degree. He's behind a little bit on the kills right now, but it's not by any huge factor as well. Just hasn't really had an opportunity. There hasn't been any situation he's been presented with, so it happens.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that you have to remember in a game where there is no respawns is that there's actually only a certain amount of kills to go around. There's a finite amount, John, if you know anything about the economy, right? So Looks like there's going to be a little bit of a shortage for him in that regard, but not going to mean all that much. What a setup Astralis has going here inside of the closet. Sweater gets completely caught off guard. I love that swing. They were just pissed off that he was doing it, John. They're like, get this stupid stuff out of my window. I want this wall. And he's like, well, I have an FMG9. Would you want that instead? And, well, that's what they're going to receive. Astralis will be able to at least take down Sweater. They are getting boxed out of this master area of the map, John. Foxay goes down. That's the Kandalas out the window. They have no means to try and get in. No means of production, minus the EE1D.
And a new element was just added to the walk-in play as well. Originally just expecting Iconic to be having that.
Vertical, your timing.
Established here. Vertical as well. Not going to be able to find this pick in the way that he would have wanted to now. Does have a potential clean hop if he wants to risk it here, and indeed he will. Goes forward. Iconic's going to be able to hear that, though, and Iconic will not be ready for the direct play from Vert. Vert has a window open forward. DP Fire, they're immediately trading that back out. Shuttle not able to win his fight on the inside of Master Bat. So Noors and Vertical making a small amount of impact, but an impact that keeps this team very much in the round, and in this case, in the game as well. Just need to try and find a plant opportunity is going to be the big issue here now.
This is psychotic, what we are witnessing right now. Vertical with a big kill out of DP Fire. Predicts the corner for Concrete. Vertical and Noors both on very low HP, but Forrest, he's practically 1 foot in the grave. J9O, the biggest respectable player here, is he's got max HP and a lot of wit on those shoulders. It's going to take more than that, more than likely, to close this down. Oxygen have been baring their teeth this entire game. They're looking to do it even more with this OSA setup. This should be the plant here from Vertical. There is no prevention from Astralis. They have to do it with the guns. Forrest moves forward. He's got the play. Oh my God, Forrest!
I love it.
He gets away with it again, this absolute maniac. I swear, every single time that we go to Forest, we see magic happen. Fofosan XD does it again.
And he makes that play with that amount of confidence with like 20 HP as well. Crazy stuff from Forrest that are
Dude, he
knowing
puts it all on the table.
Knowing full well that the second he peeks that doorway, he could have instantly been dead.
Yeah.
They may have not even been able to see anything in the process. Makes the play anyway, just cuts the head clean off his other opponent, and then engages in a short game of chicken with Vertical on the other side of that barricade there. Beautifully done to put Astralis right back on the right foot forward here and tie us up again at 5-all.
I still cannot believe that at one moment in time, I like seriously thought that Fofo was trolling whenever he played games. Like back in like the E-United days and just like watching some of the T2 stuff, I was like, I don't know, man. I've always been a big fan of Forrest. Always love playing with the guy, but I don't know if he's going to be able to really find success here. And boy, has he shut me up since that day. Let me tell you. I mean, I never obviously said any of that. That was more of just like a thought inside my brain, but I'm never going to think those thoughts ever again, am I? So the guy, just pure magic. Pure bliss whenever you get to watch Forrest do what he does best, which is killing opponents in the most frivolous ways you've ever seen in your life for a game of Rainbow Six Siege.
Big changeup has been called to Oxygen's attacking lineup. Once again, you can see it there on the right. 3 out of 5 operators have been changed up, mainly to bring more intel into the fold here. Dream, of course, bringing the Dokkaebi. Vertical now as well. Excuse me, going for the Jackal. And then finally we see just the usual pick of a Yana being picked up by Noors there. Obviously just more of a comfort pick for him, as I think he was on the Twitch as of last round. So we've been seeing those front-running players switch between those two operators quite commonly. So it's more so, of course, on our intel operators where things will potentially change up. And Astralis will find their early round aggressive tendencies potentially limited a bit more by that utility.
Yes, indeed, and that's really what the objective of Oxygen's offensive lineups have been, is to try and slow down Astralis, make it to where they can't just immediately dagger them when they get in the building. They don't want to be losing some of these very key components of their operator lineup, and that's the thing about Siege is, yeah, you might just lose one body, and it might not seem like the biggest thing in the world, but depending on what operator it is, it could mean the most. I mean, just looking at this lineup right now, right, you'd really want to be able to keep things like Dokkaebi or Jackal. You lose either of those, you lose a lot of info game that you once had access to. So Oxygen always trying to play this close to the chest. It's really just been Astralis that's been able to slip through the cracks, even given the utility standpoint that we've seen out of OXG.
OXG taking a very, very slow approach here on round number 11 as well.
They want to avoid Fofosan at all costs.
Pretty much, and they want to avoid any early round shenanigans. And unfortunately, it's been the setup for Oxygen for most of these rounds so far, is them losing one, if not more, players in the opening action, and then just, for the most part, having struggles recovering that. Obviously, things have been a little bit brighter on a few other rounds, but that has been the tail of the tape for most of the first minute or so, especially in the first half of a lot of these rounds here. Foxy, of course, now still on that outside repel for the window, waiting for a chance for him to strike. Now, of course, Astralis are going to be hearing this. So they draw 2 players out from their trophy statuary setup to kind of get ready for this. If there is going to be a hallway play, but that could very easily change up still. Auction does not look like they are committed to anything yet, but that's going to change now as we enter the final minute. Sweater looks like he wants to push himself to the inside of Study. Realistically, though, he can't. Looking at it, there's coverage on the doorway. There's coverage coming from the top main stair as well. He needs someone else besides him to push us, in my opinion, if he wants any hope of success on that play.
45 seconds to go on an AVG attack for Oxygen. They've set themselves up around the study balcony. That's where we saw Sweater moments ago. I don't know if he's going to be the one dedicated to the window or not to watch on main stairs, but we'll just have to see. But the rest of Oxygen, they're still over inside of the master area, and not only that, but they still have to worry about Iconic, who's just been tracked by Vertical in this space. Force is going to be able to potentially find one on red stairs, but Newers will actually end up winning out the fight. The G36C always paying out dividends for Newers, and it's going to get 2 big kills. Oxygen have got to get on the throttle now, though, as there's only 10 seconds remaining. Vertical will go down. Where's this case? It's on Dream. The plant started. 2 big kills for Astralis. Shuttle dies trying to rotate through main, and it's all left up to Iconic, who gets gunned down by Newers. He's found himself in some very key moments in this game. Another big triple for him on this round.
Very efficient take from Oxygen overall. Very, very clean throughout the entire course of it. Counters pretty much every single facet of the defense that have been set up, at least interior to the site. Few trip-ups, obviously, with the flanks that tend to pop out there in the midst of that actual execute, but still went off without a hitch with regards to actually clearing the setup that they could see from the beginning of that one. And that includes that kind of tricky push into Study that they would have had to go for as well. Thankfully, with the push starting from the top of red stairs, that distracted the player who was watching the Study door itself, really just leaving the individual 1v1 for them to push into in Study.
That was a very patient, calculated round from Oxygen. They used that entire early game to understand the setup of Astralis, and then with that last minute, they took their time in breaking down what Astralis had extended for themselves. Usually with Astralis, they like to start off with like 2 players towards that master side, but if you notice at that last minute, who's the only person over there? Iconic. It's very difficult to try and get out of a situation where there's practically an entire team that could be sitting outside. You really don't know, and all of a sudden you get Jackal tracked in a bedroom with a bunch of soft walls. You know, you're never really going to get away from that. And then past that, you also have Newers with a big entry onto red. That's 2 bodies right there already, right? So, I mean, for Oxygen there, it was just very, very solid game planning throughout the majority of that round to not only ISO out Iconic and take him out because of that Jackal info, but also to have Newers make that bombastic entry onto red stairs, get that big kill, and start the domino effect of the Astralis defense.
All right, well, Oxygen has the honor here. They have made it up to 6 points first, so only one opportunity to do so.
We had a little good social media poll there.
Oh,
It was which one was more hungry for the win today, and was it Newers or Iconic? And honestly, I'd say that you could say both. If there was somebody that had to be more hungry in this current situation, given the circumstances, you know it's got to be Iconic. They are on the door of forcing us to overtime and still having a chance to go to a major event. If they lose this round, John, it's all over. Mirage will be going for the very first time ever, actually, in the history of the organization.
So let's see if Astralis can bring things back under their own control now. Like we had mentioned before, if they manage to take this to an outright win, even inside of overtime, it will still be enough. The loss in overtime will not, just to clarify that as well. So Astralis does still need to find an outright victory in this match, one way or another. Selma's quickly moving in to try and open things up towards the bar angle for themselves, so they'll establish that very, very quickly here. That is also going to scare away some of the presence from the hallway. Astralis very much playing around that primary bookcase N90 hallway, though, as the main point of their defense. So if Oxygen can either get access to that or breach the setup in some way, shape, or form, then they're going to be in a very good position to take final control. Oh, a big hop from Forrest, and it's not going to be caught. Foxy doesn't take a single bullet out of that encounter. Instead, he returns it all and eliminates one of the big stars of Astralis here, putting them down 4v5 on a round they very much could not afford to be in this position in.
Forrest like a comet heading out of the 90 window, but immediately fizzles out. And if that's the way that Astralis goes out for the last stage of the year, definitely going to be something that they'll look back on and wonder exactly what the moment could have called for, what they could have done different, but that doesn't mean that they don't have an opportunity. As of now, be able to at least slow down Oxygen from pushing up main stairs. OXG have grinded to a halt. They do not want to make a mistake. They have vertical back on the Jackal. That'll definitely assist them in trying to get some extra info and force these people out of their hidey holes. Some nice shots from DP Fire, but he's body blocked by Iconic, and they both go down to the gun of vertical. J90 and Shuttle. There's so much time remaining for Oxygen to get this done. J90 hoping, praying that they swing in on the 90 window. Sweater decimates Shuttle. It's a 1 versus 5. J90, is he going to die to the red player? Oh, he's got the shot onto vertical, but that's going to give up his positioning. Some nice crosses being held now. This would be the highlight of J90's career here if he's able to force this overtime. Dream is going to force us into overtime inside of the round with the case going down. It's going to knock us to 40 seconds here. J90 still has a kunai available to him, but he doesn't have the shot. Sweater takes him down, and Oxygen punch their ticket to the 6 Invitational. They prevent Astralis from going to Sweden, and Mirage, for the very first time in NAL history, will be taking an international flight. It's a good day to be an NA fan, but it's a little bit of a rough one if you're wearing red.
Big commiserations, of course, to the folks on Astralis. Massive congratulations to both Oxygen, of course, for their now qualification into the 6 Invitational coming up in a few months. More importantly, in the immediate future, of course, Mirage now heading to the major as Stoics mentioned for the very first time in that franchise's history. So I'm sure that the players, as well as the organization, very happy to hear that news and very happy to see the result from this game as well. Oxygen, it's been an interesting story for them so far this stage. Started out pretty much as bad as it could get, but they've been able to bring it back under their own control, figure out the situation, and now, once again, are contesting some of the best here in the league.
Truly incredible storylines to close out NAL's last play day. But don't worry, folks, we've got a lot of action still yet to come, so don't touch that browser. We'll be back with our analyst desk.
Drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, vintage friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the D. These no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a beat, bro. Whoa, whoa. I press the button and
Oh no, it's not an illusion. That's right. Mirage qualifies for the Sweden Major via Oxygen taking down Astralis. Oxygen also qualifying for the SI for the 6 Invitational next year. Everybody qualifying for everything except for Astralis. I mean, they're going to be at SI, but probably, but they aren't going to be in Sweden. But I think the big story here is Mirage going to their first major ever.
Yep.
Wow.
They're going to be super happy about that one, of course. A little bit of help from their friends over on OXG.
Thank you, Mr. Dream. Yep.
Very, very nice. Yeah, I guess Dream helping on his old team, right?
Exactly, yeah.
No, I didn't see this coming. I did not see this happening. I think it's a phenomenal come from behind story for Mirage after 2 straight stages of being dead last, but I still don't know how much confidence I have in them going any real distance at the major, but you can't not be happy for those guys, especially given all of the crap that core's been through for a really long time, from the public, from us, even though it's been rightly so. They've gone through a whole bunch of this internal organization restructuring. They've needed to pull out all the stops. They did. They didn't really look impressive earlier today, but they also didn't have to rely solely on themselves to make it. So, yeah, they better be buying OXG like steak dinners tonight.
There you go. Well, we got Sweater waiting to chat with us over in Las Vegas, apparently. So we'll go over to chat a little bit with one of our victorious players. How's it going, Sweater?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, doing good. Congrats on the win today. Obviously, no major for Oxygen this time around, but you do punch your ticket to the 6 Invitational. Looking ahead to that, do you feel like Oxygen is coming out of the stage now, winning 4 in a row at the end? Do you feel like there was a lot of learnings in the last half of stage 3 here as a squad?
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of ups and downs from obviously like them releasing Lax and picking up me, which I'm like a completely different player.
Yeah.
So it kind of took me some time to like, learn the roles that I was supposed to play. And eventually we kind of just swapped them for like the better. And obviously we've won like 4 games now in a row. So I think it's a lot better.
Well, you've now not only locked in your own tournament for its 6 Invitational, but you are now choosing to, well, not choosing, but you've sent Mirage in instead of Astralis. As a team, as OXG, were you guys like, was there any hope for you guys that you could win this for Mirage, or do you not really care who goes to the major? Obviously, you guys lost that chance a little while ago.
Yeah, we don't really mind who went to the major. It was more like for ourselves, proving that like we could be like at the top. Obviously, winning 4 games in a row like really helped. It didn't really matter who went to the major for us. Shout out B Money though. He's going to his first event.
What do you do for these next couple of months? You obviously don't have to worry about the qualifiers. You're not really doing anything until February when you have to worry about flying out. Do you have any idea what these next couple of months look like for you guys, or is it just finally a good time to take a break, take a second to chill, and just prepare for SI at this point?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are going to end up going home. I leave in 2 days to go back home for a couple months until SI, so I think everyone's kind of taking like a big break for now until we're back and ready for SI.
Always good to take a break for sure. In light of that, what do you got in mind? What does Sweater do to unwind when he steps away from the practice a little bit?
Who knows? I don't even know myself. I haven't been home in a while. Probably get home and maybe some World of Warcraft.
Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah.
You just made Doa very happy. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Time to dive into other games here and there, of course. Not slack on the practice too much, but you got to take some time off for sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for chatting with us. Congrats on the win today, and good luck with the prep for SI. Enjoy the break too.
No problem, guys. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Sweater in for a much-needed break, as is the rest of Oxygen after the 7-5 victory over Astralis. I'm actually really glad to hear about that. It's important to take breaks, even if you are a pro. Got to get that mental reset. No doubt it's going to have him come in with a better spot for SI later.
Yeah, and while I think most of the conversation for this match obviously was focused around Astralis and whether they would qualify for the major, I really do feel great about OXG having that bounce back. You know, they lost their first 5 games here in Stage 3. They came back, they win 4 in a row. You've got to be impressed by that. The bounce back has been fantastic for them. The role swaps really did turn out the way they wanted. And how poetic. They end with Sweater top of the game, 13 and 8.
Really?
Fantastically done by him. I think he's finally kind of warming up to OXG, and this team looks very, very excited for the Six Invitational. Should be good to see them back on top.
It's just a shame that this win streak had to come at the very end of their competitive calendar when they were trying a couple of things out, and obviously the role switch up looks like it's working phenomenally. Even if they themselves didn't want to admit it, they gave themselves a 2-week period, decided that that was enough time when they looked at 4 straight losses and said, there's really nothing that we can do with this. But to get 4 wins at the back end of a stage, and even in spite of being like bottom, like 9th, 10th for most of the year, to finish in what is ostensibly what, 5th place? After all of that madness, 5th or 6th, after all of that time spent at the bottom, that has to feel really, really good after a first couple of weeks of just absolute internal mayhem.
Yeah, you kind of proved the critics wrong, too. A lot of people saying, oh, I don't know if the Sweater pickup was really the right move. And now we're finally seeing what they felt they saw when they made that change.
It's
like
the right move if you use them the right way.
Exactly.
That's the lesson to be learned from this. You don't take Cry and put him on G2 and put him on a support role, and you don't put Sweater on flank watch when that's not what he's built to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a Lego car. If you put the wheel on the roof, it's not going to go. But that doesn't mean the wheel is a bad part of the car. It's just in the wrong place.
I like that, but I've never heard it before.
Sure. We're going to go with it.
These are kind of the analogies that people come to the desk for. But they also come for the great analysis from our replay breakdowns, which is exactly what we're going to get right now as we take a look at round at number 6. And this, we haven't talked about Sweater enough, so this is, again, Sweater kind of doing what people believed he could do on the Oxygen side, at least, when they picked him up, and now proving it to us all today.
Talking about saving around here, 2v5, Sweater and Dream left alive. Sweater's going to start off with a frag onto Iconic. He's just playing up here around the site, around this doorway so well. Finds not 1, not 2, not 3 in the 1v1 as well. Beautiful little peek here. Disadvantaged fight for sure. Shuttle knows where he's at. He's got the better gun, long range. However, aiming up high and he peeks around, crouched down. Really well done by Sweater. And those are the rounds that kind of popped him up to the top of the standings.
I mean, we talked about 2 hero players on Astralis in both Forest and Iconic. The same thing has definitely been the case for both Newers and Sweater. There were plenty of rounds where Newers was doing basically the same thing, multi-kill at the exact right timing moment. It's just... both of these teams just have those guys, and if they don't pop off, they're not going to do well. When Sweater is not in the position to pop off, OXG is not going to do well. Maybe this is a formula that they can look at and assume that for SI it'll be about the same, assuming the meta is the same in 3 months. But yeah, we'll see if that changes.
Yep, that's right. And I believe we have one more round to take a look at as well. And this was, if I recall correctly, round 9.
Yes.
Roll that one.
This round for me is like a microcosm of the entire match because although Sweater top fragged, I felt like Newers was by far the most important player. Here he is now getting the opening pick onto J90, and although he was popping off, he did make some poor plays. Jumps into a frost mat earlier on in this match as well, multiple times jumped out of the building only to get his head blown off by staying outside a little bit too long, walking into an angle. He made some goofy plays, but if he wasn't going down early, if his teammates ever could bail him out, like picking him out of that frost mat, he had incredible impact late into the round. He always seemed to know where to fire to find these opponents. He always seemed to be finding this impact later in the rounds, whether he's on defense or on attack. Here, of course, coming in late, he pops off in this matchup. And although it gets down to the very end, he gets the 4K, it's actually going to be Vert who pops off. And I'm sorry to Forrest that we have to highlight this.
This whiff.
Oh, my God.
Oh, it hurts.
Never in a million years should be losing that. I'm so sorry for Forrest that we had to show that. He's played fantastic all year long, but good God, he wants that one back.
I don't know, man. If they win this game, I put Forrest on like a list of potential MVP candidates for the stage.
100%.
Given the way that he has played and how consistent it was, but it's actually pretty ironic that a whiff is probably going to be the thing he's most known for this stage. That's just not how you want to go out, man.
Well, the funny thing is that round was almost a microcosm of those 2 teams, right? You had Forrest and Newers getting 4Ks in the same round. Like that's those 2 teams kind of in a nutshell at this point, it feels like. But that's it for Oxygen versus Astralis. Time to look forward to our round number 4 here of the day. It's going to be Parabellum taking on Beast Coast when we come back here on the Rainbow Six North American League. Do not miss it. See you in a few.